Welcome to the Carter Center's Forum on Human Rights. My name is Josh Griffin. I'm a graduate assistant with the Human Rights Program. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge today's conversation will show artwork that could be triggering and provoke unexpected emotions. I ask for you to sit with these emotions and try to name them and reconcile why these feelings are coming to the surface. Also, if you'd like to participate in the live chat and ask questions to our guest, you can do so by joining the Forum on Human Rights. All you need to do is complete the fields on this page to apply for membership. Today we have Atlanta-based artist Joseph Guay. It is through his artwork that Joseph has taken a stance in the fight for social justice. His artwork challenges the viewer to face racial violence, immigration rights, and school shootings head on. Joseph believes that it's in the moments of being uncomfortable when we can grow, learn, and determine our roles in social justice movements. We hope this conversation will assist you in looking inward to determine the actions you can take in your own lives to address social injustices. Joseph, thank you for being here. Let's just go ahead and jump straight into the conversation.
Great, thank you, Jeff.
Oh, you're welcome. My first question for you is, when you saw Eric Gardner's murder, you said you felt moved to take a more active role as an artist and advocating for social justice. Can you talk about your feelings at the time and how your perspective was changed?
Yeah, that was the first one that really hit me hard because when I saw the first footage of Eric and when he was killed, it reminded me so much of my dad. Like my dad had passed away earlier, many years before that, and something about the way that he looked. His eyes looked just like my dad's. And I think with everything that takes place in the world, it's not until something triggers a bit of your own personal journey that you feel a need to get involved. And once I saw that one, it really sparked a need for me to speak up in whatever manner I could find a way to do it.
Got you. And what was that manner that you decided to get involved in?
Well, with being an artist, I knew that I had some form of a platform through my art exhibitions, my website, different people that followed me with the work that I made, but I had never attempted to do anything political. Everything was really made for commercial and beauty and, selling work to decorate a home. And I really, at that moment, decided that, in history, artists that speak up can really make an impact. Looking back at the 70s and watching different singers do that, different artists stand up. And so I just took a risk and I said, I want to make an exhibit that deals with all of these topics, whether it's Eric Gardner, Alton Sterling, Trayvon, all the things that were taking place that I felt I could maybe shed a little bit of humanity on in the way that I was experiencing it through my hands in whatever manner I could. And that's what I decided to do that summer.
Got you. Yeah, no, definitely understand you about this, finding a way to get involved and take a stand. I know one way you've taken a stand is through your missed attendance exhibition. And I know this piece speaks to the ongoing epidemic of school shootings in the US. Can you tell us the backstory to this piece and the thought process that went through it in creating it?
So after the Parkland shooting, a really good friend of mine, Royce Mann, he was starting to get involved with March for Our Lives and their protest. And I thought, how can I take this situation I saw on television, and you see all these kids mobilizing, which was so powerful, that if I don't have children, but anyone of any age can think, like, if kids are starting to demand action and demand people in politics to make a difference, I certainly can stand up and support them in some form or fashion or manner. So I made 14 desks and covered them with chalkboard paint, and I thought I would bring them to the protest and allow kids of all ages to feel like they had a voice. There was a way for them to write something down, to get this frustration out of them in some form or fashion. And so I started with the desk at the Capitol, and as the march kept coming towards that space, I eventually moved them into the street. And before I knew it or could even tell anyone what to do, they were already covering them with words of inspiration, words of frustration. They became like a really interesting piece of work, and within minutes, I mean, they were circled by thousands of people, and that's what I've been trying to do the most with my work, is to make something that, as you see this in this photo, like, it's not about me. The work wasn't about what art I'm creating. It's really, how can I have put something out there to allow people to kind of express themselves. And I just became really interested in art that could do that.
No, definitely. I mean, it says a lot just looking at this picture right now and just how people kind of were drawn to it, and you not knowing, what this would evolve into. So it sounds like you created this piece about 3 years ago. Would you say this piece still resonates now? And how is it being received in 2021, knowing that this march took place in 2018?
Yeah, absolutely. So after this was done, I had no intention on making an entire body of work about school violence, but I saw how kids mobilized after this, and they wanted this to make a difference. They wanted this story not to be forgotten. They needed this to be the pivotal moment that could create some sort of change, that could bring on some legislation. And so when I brought the pieces back to my studio, suddenly in an afternoon, I got hit with a wave of like 50 ideas of other pieces of work that I could create for this. And slowly over the next several years, it took a long time to actually find a lot of these items, because I wanted to make art from vintage toys and vintage school items, kind of like what our politicians would have used in their day, which could
Hmm.
maybe spark a little nostalgia and make them understand, okay, yeah, I did sit at these desks. I did use, these Fisher Price toys and these magnets. And that way, if I made art with those, maybe it could make them remember their childhood and how different it was. They didn't have to feel like this when they went to school. So
Yeah,
in the
no,
in
definitely.
in the time since, I mean, now I have probably about 60 pieces that are a part of this collection. So
Okay.
yeah.
And um, will this exhibit potentially be going on tour anywhere or
Yeah, I'm
anything?
talking
Yeah.
to a couple places, and the idea would be maybe to partner up with March for Our Lives, or even Everytown, and then take this exhibit and let it tour for a while. I've had opportunities to sell a lot of the pieces, but I don't want to. That was never the intention. Was for this to really continue to live, continue to go out there and make people remember this event until we can get some laws changed. Because with the world we live in today, all of these things get replaced every week by another tragedy, another event, another shooting, and another arrest that went wrong, and we forget the topics that needed to be addressed. And so I try to make art that can be out in the world and continue to live and continue to make people realize, okay, let's stay on top of this until we can see something change.
No, absolutely, absolutely. What I love about this piece is that you said you were inspired by these ongoing events 3 years ago, and here we are now in 2021, and it still lives on, and the community is seeing that and wants to amplify it, and I think that's the beauty of just taking those action steps, which we're trying to focus on today, is just knowing that this is something that I'm passionate about and that I'm going to do. And like, it's just awesome to see you doing it, not for your own self gain, but to amplify, the issues of school shootings. And then another piece of yours is the border wall. You designed and created a replica segment of the border wall. How has this art piece sparked community engagement and conversation in responses to the rise in anti-immigration rhetoric?
Well, when I saw that in San Diego, they were doing prototypes for the extension of the border wall, and they ended up spending $5 million to make a couple prototypes. And at the time, Trump was running for office and stating how they were going to build more of the wall on this almost 2,000 mile border that we have with Mexico. And I thought, there's so many people that I could hear around me that were discussing, oh, we should build it, we should spend money on this needs to happen. And I thought, I'm going to take my own money and actually build a real border wall, a demo of it here in Atlanta that people can come to, stand in front of it, feel what it feels like to have that separating you from, you know, uh, your journey of what you think you should go in life, maybe, and yeah, and in the picture you can see the size of this. It was basically 40 feet wide and almost 20 feet tall. It was made of solid concrete and steel. I actually built it with undocumented workers here in Atlanta to kind of show their voice on how they're here to work hard. They build a lot of the infrastructure of our cities. And so, I wanted to give them an opportunity to participate in the front end of this project and building it. And then what happened is I put it right on the corner of 10th and Howell Mill, and then asked people to come once it was done, to come and stand in front of it and just have conversation, talk about it, write on it, spray paint on it, express whatever you feel about this wall and where we're going as a country. And it was really interesting because people that were for it, for building a wall across our entire border, got out there, and I would ask them, I say, go to one side and pretend you needed to cross this to get your kids an education. Pretend you need to cross this to get work to take care of your family, and feel what that feels like, and then write about it. Put something on this surface about it, and you would have people that would interact and cross each other's statements out and laugh and have this really healthy engagement on, on where we stand as a country, and what we should do together, and kind of eliminate all the arguing that was taking place. So, and that's a photograph of sort of the last moment. It lived out there for over a year, and people engaged with it. It was an ongoing, every week it looked like a different surface. So, again, it was a piece of art that had nothing to do with me. Like people saw it on the road and stopped and would start writing on it. And they didn't know who I was. They didn't know anything about me. They didn't know my views on immigration. It was really their chance to come and say what they thought of from their own perspective, which was, in my eyes, really beautiful. I love stuff that can engage people in the right manner and kind of eliminate all the arguing that's taking place in the world.
Yeah, no, definitely. Is this piece still up on 10th and How?
Well, actually, the area has become so desired now. So there's a high rise that sits there now.
Oh,
I had to
okay.
take it was built in panels, mainly because I couldn't build it on site. I wanted to use actual undocumented workers and have them build it, and then build it off site. We brought it in by truck and then installed it in the location. So yeah, that's the wall as it was being put together. Because I really wanted it to be an authentic conversation, and every part of it to be real. And so, that was it in its rawest form.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. That's just really cool how that idea came together and how you mapped out, the steps to take to produce a piece. And what I think the beauty is that art truly draws community and brings people together. As you were saying, people literally stopped on the side of the road to go and, put their truth onto this wall. And that is art, we all are a part of it. We all see it and notice it. It's awesome to know that you unknowingly just created something that was meaningful to you, and then went and produced it. And then now, community, it surrounds that. I think we all have that ability within us, is to, find things that we're passionate about, and to commit ourselves to them fully, not knowing what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we're gonna move on to. Actually, I want to go back real fast because I was at your art studio yesterday, and I don't know if we have a picture of it, but could you please describe the tables or the desks stacked on each other and like the meaning behind that? Because that was
Yeah.
very powerful. That story that you told me about that yesterday. If you could,
Yeah, I
you know,
don't
let
know
our
if we
audience
have a
know about
photo of
that.
it. So this is an image of the school desk at my studio now, and you'll see in the background other pieces that I've created in the last 3 years to build out this entire show. In the back corner, there's an organ that has um, AR-15 bullets with pencil erasers on top of it, because it's sort of the ongoing theme of these bullets that erase lives and erase children's lives. And there's a bullet for each child who's died in the United States on top of that organ. And next to it, which we don't see in the photo, oh, actually, there it is. Yeah, to the very left of the image, there's one school desk with 7 stacked on top of it. And the piece is called The Weight of Loss. And it's about a child that's back at school the day after, or a couple of days after the shooting, and 7 of his friends have been killed. And what that pressure must feel like. And at any moment, it could just come crashing down on this child. And the piece is completely balanced. It's fallen 4 times. And that's sort of the the difficult thing and the beauty of that sculpture is that you stand in front of it and it can just collapse on you, and you really feel the sense of this kid at school. And I think that's you know when you look at it, you not, again, most of this art I tried to remove myself as an artist from it and make it in a manner that you can't tell who created it, what style it was in, any of that stuff. It's just objects from a schoolroom that I happen to put together in a manner that make you think. And that definitely, when you're in front of it, it weighs on you. You sense what it must feel like to have that pressure.
No, absolutely. I felt it when I was there, and we were just like talking about it and taking it in. And when you said it was all, you know, just gravity holding it together, I was truly amazed. I could just feel the magnitude of that piece. And another piece of yours, which unfortunately wasn't at your studio, but you've described to me and I've seen in photos, really left me speechless. As I looked more intently at your Trayvon piece
Yeah.
of the hoodies, I saw the faces and the names of people who've lost their lives to police brutality. Thinking to myself that as an African American who happens to be biracial, that could definitely be me. So, how painful was it for you to create this piece?
Yeah, well, Trayvon one was so tough on me because growing up as a kid, I used to wander all over the place. I grew up on an island. There really was no boundaries. You could just kind of go everywhere. And to think that if I crossed behind someone's yard or went behind an apartment building or anything, that someone could feel the need to take my life over it, it was overwhelming for me. So I knew that I wanted to make a piece specifically for Trayvon, and how he became almost like the poster of the Black Lives Matter movement and the black hoodies, and the statement kind of, I mean, he really propelled a whole movement, and it's sad that he had to die in order to do that. And that's what I thought about. I ordered an enormous amount of hoodies and started trying to create a piece that would honor him, that it wouldn't feel like it was exploiting the situation or giving you my perspective on it, which is really important to me as an artist. Like, I don't want you to look at my work and to feel my thoughts. I want you to feel the person's thoughts. And so I probably took this piece apart maybe 20, 30 times. And I started creating almost like a sea or an ocean of hoodies. And I wanted you to feel that they were being almost pulled down by the situation. And at the very end, I still couldn't see Trayvon. And so I crucified one in the center. And I felt like that's what he was. His death was almost like a crucifixion for this movement. And then I thought, well, where is he now? Like, where is Trayvon? Like, he's in this mystical place that we don't know, that hopefully is watching what he helped to create through his loss. So then I made a piece of Trayvon, looking back at the sculpture that I did, almost as if he was in the gallery with us. And people would walk up and kind of walk past the sculpture of the hoodie looking at the piece, and they would start to look at the one on the wall, and then when they would turn around, they would realize that his entire body is made of Skittles, which is what he had in his pocket when he was killed, not a weapon. And then he's sitting on a bed of 9mm bullet casings, which is what was on the ground after he was shot. So it really I felt like when you looked at this piece and you were around this work, you really felt the moment of him rather than of me, the artist. You really, it weighed on you what happened to him in his experience.
Yeah, no, I feel all that just looking at these pictures. What went through your mind as you placed, each hoodie on the canvas? Like, did you think of people who've lost their lives to police brutality?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of the ones that already had died, and then also how many else were to come. Like, how many of these hoodies are going to represent the next person that's going to die before we figure this out, and especially, laws that are created without thinking of the intentions, like the stand your ground law that Zimmerman stood behind to murder a kid. How you can't create a law that removes law. Like it gave him the ability to put law in his own hands and make a choice for himself that he could take Trayvon's life. And that's really sad. I was really shocked. I didn't even know that law existed until Trayvon was killed. So it just shows you we have a really big responsibility to one another to get some things right and to do it collectively. Like we tend to argue so much, but if you really break it down, some of these things that we're all asking for would help us all as a collective. It's not a left choice or a right choice. It's really a human choice that would protect all of us if we get it right. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I couldn't agree more. When I look at this piece and I see the crucifixion, it's almost as if, it's Trayvon holding back, the future deaths of black Americans lost to police brutality, and just like why, like trying to prevent them from dying almost. Yeah. Actually, I have a poem that speaks to this. Is it all right with you if I perform it for you and for our audience?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So I want to, reaffirm that, art can be very triggering. It can provoke unexpected emotions. This piece is reflective of my 31 years on this earth as a Black male, and is my lived experience. So please take that into context and know that if it makes you uncomfortable, this is my literal lived reality. So I wrote this piece when I was in Barbados, and I saw the verdict come down that George Zimmerman had been acquitted in the murder of Trayvon Martin, and I dedicate this piece to Trayvon. The world will never know who you could have been. You were a Black adolescent murdered over suspicion. I remember seeing your face on CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News. I wish I could have turned off the television and pinched myself to see if I was dreaming. I too have walked down dimly lit streets in the cover of night with the hoodie up. The only weapons in my possession were Arizona iced tea in one hand and a bag of Skittles in the other. Trayvon was 17 when George Zimmerman introduced bullets into his life. Can somebody tell me why bullets keep piercing Black lives? Do our lives matter? My life seems to be under a constant helicopter of spotlights. Judgment is burned into my skin with each step I take. I swear at times it feels like my skin is sin. Maybe the police want me to be born again, freed of sin, so they murder, so they kill Black lives, so we can be born again, freed of sin. I'm not Moses, but when I walk down the Beltline, crowds of people part like the Red Sea. Police loves to follow my every step. Purses always seem to alternate hands. I guess you could say these are traits of being a Black man. I've seen children run and hide when I come near. It's as if I'm the Black Plague or a man they've seen in an episode of Cops, but this poem isn't about me. It's about the Black bodies who've died in unnatural ways. Parents live in a world of darkness because their loved ones can't rise from the dead. There's no coming back from death. So in death, we'll know the side of the story. The American story is rooted in racism. And the only way to fix a problem is to admit there is one. From 1619 to 2021, America has been racist. We've built a society quick to stereotype people we don't know. Minority youth are not a threat to your well-being. Tattoos are stories for the world to see. My story can be read through my skin. Believe it or not, I don't have kids. I treat women with respect. I've stood on the steps in Washington, D.C., where Martin Luther King delivered his I Have a Dream speech. Is this the reality he'd want to see? If he went to the mountaintop and looked down, would he be proud of a place where grown men can murder youth becoming self-defense? As a minority in this country, it seems like you were born guilty before you're ever innocent. I still don't know why bullets love to enter Black lives. I hope and pray bullets never find their way into my life. This poem is about me, because I could be Trayvon Martin, Oscar Grant III, Mike Brown Jr., Tamir Rice, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Walter Scott, Eric Gardner, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, Tanisha Anderson, Atiana Jefferson, Adam Toledo, Freddie Gray, Ahmaud Arbery, Rayshard Brooks, Ma'Khia Bryant, Dante Wright, George Floyd, Emmett Till, maybe even Josh Griffin. So I'll end this with a question. Do I look suspicious? Thank you. That was a lot. I apologize, but
Wow.
yes.
It's so strong, though, man. It really floors me when you hear something that passionate. I mean, it's really, really, really strong. I'm glad you share that.
You're welcome. No, thank you for listening to my truth. It's painful to read, but needs to be heard, because that's a poem that's 10 years old and still relevant.
You know, real quick, I was talking to a friend this morning about you, and I was trying not to get upset. I was saying how strange it must be to be judged over something you can't change, right? Like, I've been judged over things I did, or judged over something that I know I could fix, you know? But to be judged over the tone of your skin that you can't affect, that you didn't choose, that you don't have anything to do with, that will never get erased or turned to something different, and to have to live with that, it's something that we just, people have to get to that point of understanding that, like, it's the tone of our skin. I just can't understand racism. I don't get it. It's a mechanism to save us from the sunlight. I mean, it's a mechanism to help us survive, and it's turned against us. It's bizarre. Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there that, you know, we can unpack about what beauty is, and, you know, how that has come about, and colorisms and things of that nature. But I think in the American context, the time is now to create change. And one way to do that is, you know, to engage in these conversations of, yes, we are different ethnicities, but there's still intersections with our identity, and we still have commonality, and we still can create change collectively together. Just a matter of us identifying those and wanting to take the time to do so, and to heed the importance of now, because now is the time. You know,
absolutely.
In 5 days we'll mark the you know, the 1-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, and I spent a lot of the summer, you know, in the streets of Atlanta, grassroots activism, went to the March on Washington. And it's just, we need that same urgency of protests in our everyday life, not literally, because you can't do that every day, but we need to definitely continue that urgency. So knowing that, be mindful of time, quickly, Joseph, what everyday actions can our audience take to advocate for social justice issues?
Well, I mean, if anything, I want people to walk away from this and realize it doesn't matter if you're a musician, an artist, a poet, a banker, someone that works in a schoolroom, any of these things, like anyone can express their voice in any form or fashion. You know, you can write a note on your desk every day and just have it next to your computer for people to witness when they walk by. Like, there's always a way to speak up about everything that you believe in. You don't have to be, someone of giant public notoriety to make a movement happen. It all starts with these little increments. So a couple of the organizations that I tend to follow and love and want to support, of course, is March for Our Lives. I think they have very simple objectives, which is important. You know, you can chip away at these things. There's Every Town, which is also amazing for gun violence, and they're trying to change legislation. I mean, it's one thing to get your voice out there in a protest, and it's another thing to try to really get behind some stuff and make some things change. So I think number one is bringing things to the surface, whether it's with protesting and art and different images, and then the other level is getting involved on some manner to help sign petitions, put people into law, vote. Number one, vote. Research and see who's going to make these changes for you and put them in office. That's the only way it actually really gets really changed, is to get people to change some laws. So we can all do that. We all have the wonderful gift of voting. So I think that's
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, please support March for Our Lives, Every Town. Every Town, which Joseph has just spoken about, and you can follow Joseph at his Instagram handle there, and also josephguay.com. I want to thank you all for joining us today in this conversation. You know, we hope to see you next month for number 3 of our roundtable series on social justice through the art. Joseph, thank you, and I'll let you have any last words.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. I appreciate the opportunity to do this, and most of all, to hear your spoken word. It's very powerful, and
Thank you.
hopefully our viewers will just find their way to get their voice out there and their feelings. And sorry, I got emotional a little bit during our discussion, but it's strong topics. We need to all be emotional with it and approach it in that manner, you know, from truly realizing we have to change some things with our lives. So thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for being here, Joseph. And to our audience, thank you. And hopefully you can find ways in your own lives to take action steps in supporting social justice issues that you believe in. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.